Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are going to discuss the mixture of emotions that many of you have right now when it comes to your hard-earned dollars, the markets, and of course, this virus. And on our Coach's Corner today, we're going to discuss how behavioral economics plays a large role when it comes to investing your money that you spent a lifetime to build and create. And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you how to properly rebalance your 401ks and company plans so that you can be successful in retirement. So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now. I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars. Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better. You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches. I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and apply them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement. Welcome into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm the coach, Chad Slagle, here with my colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Clipboard segment, we're going to discuss the mixture of emotions that many of you have right now when it comes to your hard-earned dollars, the markets, and of course, this virus. You know, I have, Chad, a lot of emotions right now. You know, I can't believe our country and our world is in the state it is in right now. I'm wondering if our businesses will ever open back up, wondering if my kids will ever go back to school here in the fall, almost a feeling of depression. But then I do see a ray of hope when states down south start opening up, businesses start opening up, and of course the golf courses in our area start opening up. You know, the weather is getting better, and it's a ray of sunshine on things that have been so dark for so long. Then you hear these so-called experts, Chad, and they're talking about this second wave of the virus that may happen in the fall and winter. So it's a constant up and down of emotions, a lot like the stock market is these days, where we see a constant up and down of the market and a constant flow of emotions. Should I stay in? Should I get out? Should I put in cash? Should I ride it out? There's so many emotions that we have when it comes to the constant, really, Chad, just everything going on around us, all the noise around us right today creates a lot of emotions.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we all are experiencing this, and this is something we've never been through. And, you know, it made me think about talking with some clients, but, you know, I was talking to some family members, and my grandmother's been in a nursing home and was so used to having, you know, 3, 4 of her kids coming to see her every day, and now not being able to do that. So that sense of depression, a lot of families, even with kids. I mean, we've been at this for quite a few weeks. You know, it's just natural for some of these emotions to take over, whether it's good or bad. And I think, you know, you mentioned timing in the markets. This is probably the worst time to allow our emotions to get in the way.
Yeah, Chad, when we talk about the emotions, good or bad, I think the best thing we can all do is be forward thinking and control what you can control. Something are completely out of our hands. Emotions get in the way when we think about investing decisions all the time with pre-retirees and retirees, especially during these volatile markets that we have right now. So you got to keep your emotions in check. You got to be long-term with the game plan that you have. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about behavioral economics. We're going to talk about the emotions that you have with your monies and how to control those emotions so your money is better off in the long term once we get through this pandemic that we're in right now. And of course, later on in the show, we're going to discuss how to properly rebalance your 401k and company plans without letting emotions get in the way.
Yeah, and I think, Chad, this is a time. I mean, you know, you look back to 2008 and a lot of people all of a sudden were losing money. They jump out of the market. They allowed that fear to take over and they never got back in, and you saw what happened with that market. So now is not a time to try and time this market and allow these emotions to get in the way. So, you know, just you've got to be able to kind of weather that storm and get your emotions out of some of those decisions when it comes to your money.
When we return on the Coach's Corner, we are going to discuss how behavioral economics plays a large role when it comes to investing your money that you spent a lifetime to build and create. We'll be right back. Okay, let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team.
Everybody in here?
That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other. stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm back here with my colleague, Chad Tobin, and today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss how behavioral economics plays a large role when it comes to investing your money that you spent a lifetime to build and create. You know, Chad, I think back to the workshops and seminars that our firm has been putting on since really we started the firm. And the last few years, many retirees and pre-retirees came to these events with really out any worries in the world because the market was continuing to hit all-time highs. But now it seems like the flip of a switch, the beginning of 2020, the COVID-19 and the Dow dropping from an all-time closing high of 29,551 on February 12th of this year to 18,591 on March 23rd, 2020. Think about that. In just over a month's time, the Dow dropped almost 40%, actually 37%. Now think about investors out there and all of the anxiety, the fear, the worry that crept in your minds because you lost a significant portion of your nest egg, monies that it's taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. So now, today on the Coach's Corner, we want to discuss those emotions more in depth and why they affect you, your money, and your portfolio.
Yeah, and Chad, I think, this is a time where many of you out there watching the show, you're still working, maybe getting ready to retire, and in this kind of time, this is, as scary as it comes for those of you that are nearing retirement or maybe just recently retired because of that kind of pullback. So I think it's so important to understand, these emotions, but now understand things that you can do as an investor to help protect yourself.
You know, Chad, when you think about your hard-earned dollars and volatile times in the market, what two emotions, for those of you that's sitting at home, what two emotions come to mind? And what we find, Chad, with a lot of our clients, the two biggest emotions that most of them have is greed and fear. And the reason we talk about greed and fear is how many of you sold all your stocks and all your mutual funds back in February when the market was at an all-time high? Most of us didn't. Right. Why? Because we get greedy. We want more and more and more. But now what we see is a lot of fear. A lot of investors today think they may need to go to cash and wait until the market comes back. Or really, a lot of you are really unsure. Should you go to cash? Should you hang in there? Exactly what should you do with that money? Because of the fear has really paralyzed you.
Well, and some of the changes, we have under the new CARES Act or the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, individuals faced with what they're calling a personal or household diagnosis with the COVID-19, in quotes, experiencing adverse or financial consequences. So now another change is they're allowing individuals that this is impacted to go into those 401ks, those retirement accounts, and be able to draw out as much up to $100,000 from these accounts and eliminate the IRS penalty if you're under 59 and a half. Now, you're still going to have to pay taxes on this money, but that penalty is waived and you're able to stretch the taxes out over a 3-year period. Now, with that being said, this is a change. It's something that the IRS and the government's allowing us to do, but you want to make sure you make that decision not out of an emotion, out of fear, but with logic.
Absolutely right, Chad. So the things that when we talk about emotion and logic, that brings us to behavioral economics, why we behave the way that we do and act the way that we do when it comes to our hard-earned dollars, monies, again, that has taken us 30 to 40 years to accumulate. And two of the biggest behavioral economics that we see, especially right now, number one is what's called decision paralysis. The more choices we have, the more likely we are to freeze up and go with the path of least resistance. In today's world, there's, as I mentioned earlier, Chad, there's a lot of noise coming from everywhere. You open up the Wall Street Journal and those experts are telling you to do this with your money. You turn on a certain TV show or a certain cable station and those money experts on TV are telling you to do this with your money. You sit down with your local advisor and they're telling you to do something completely different with your money. So the problem is, even though that you know you probably need to be making some changes, maybe you need to be rebalancing your portfolio, you get all this information from all these different places, and what happens is, since you have so much information, you completely get paralyzed, and that's what we call decision paralysis, and you cannot let that decision paralysis or that fear paralyze you, especially because of where the economy is now, but also, Chad, especially as you get closer to retirement.
You know, you're absolutely right. This decision paralysis can really be proven to be very costly in times like this. And it was funny, talking to a client, and as you mentioned, he likes to go on walks every morning, and when his wife's not with him, he'll put some of these economists and experts, so-called, on his his phone to listen to. And so we were talking about, and trying to not become paralyzed, trying to be proactive and make some decisions, not out of fear or greed, but out of logic, and take a lot of that noise out of the equation is huge at this point.
The other one, Chad, that we see quite often, especially now because of the downturn in the market, is what's called sunk cost fallacy. We get so sunk into the cost of an investment, such as a stock or a mutual fund, that even though the stock or mutual fund may have lots of money or be down, if you've lost a lot of money in these accounts or be down, a lot of people don't want to sell out of those accounts, even though it's continuing to drop, until it gets back to where they originally started. Why? Because they're so sunk into the cost of what that account was worth. I actually spoke to a lady that had been watching us on the TV show the past couple of weeks, and her big concern was, I have a 401k, I have $600,000 in the account, or I had $600,000 before the downturn in the market in February and March. Now that money is only worth $450,000. So my question is, should I wait until it comes back to that 600 to make some decisions and to maybe rebalance that, or should I, start repositioning now? And the key is, Chad, you have to stay disciplined. You have to be forward thinking and think about with that money. And one thing you always talk about is, it could come up, but what happens if that 450 now goes down to 400 or 350?
Yeah, and I think that's none of us sitting here, we don't have a crystal ball. We have a lot of information coming at us every single week, and it seems to be different information when it comes to the markets and our economy and businesses. So, we can't allow our emotions to get the best of us at this point. And, understanding now's the time, if you've had some investments that aren't performing or underperformers, or maybe you're in some types of investments that, you're having to pay loads all the time to get in or get out. I mean, now's the time to really upgrade some of these kinds of investments. But you have to kind of do that with a logical approach as opposed to an emotional approach.
Speaking of logic, Chad, to download our free white paper today about will your retirement last as long as you do, visit www.schlegelfinancial.com/empoweryou. Coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to show you how to properly rebalance your 401ks and company plans so you can be successful in retirement. We'll be right back. The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri, at our Creve Coeur and Sunset Hills offices, or in Illinois at our Edwardsville, Springfield, and Jacksonville locations. So call now to get set up on the right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back into the Chad Schlegel Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just discussed how behavioral economics plays a large role on your hard-earned dollars. Now we're going to show you how to properly rebalance your 401ks and other company and retirement plans so that you can be successful in retirement. You know, when you think, Chad, about your 401ks and your company plans through work, you know that wild swings in the market can hurt them in two ways. Number one, like we've been talking about today, emotions can take over, spurring bad investment decisions, a lot of fear, and an investor's asset mix can get out of whack, which in turn can cause negative returns and, of course, a bad income. Or number two, simply having too much risk exposure in your current plan and the market dropping, causing you to lose a large portion of your nest egg. But with proper planning, you can help avoid these pitfalls and these mistakes. So what we want to discuss now is exactly how to set that portfolio up and really what to look at when it comes to your 401ks, 403Bs, or other company plans.
Yeah, and Chad, this is important because what we see and how things have evolved when the pensions went away and we became what we call a pensionless society these days. Now all of a sudden, these 401ks, 403Bs, TSPs, deferred compensation employer plans, these are the largest asset in many people's portfolio. It's worth more than your home. And so, there's some things that now all of a sudden you've got to really be smart with when it comes to these qualified accounts.
And these 401ks and company plans, Chad, they're really dictating when you're going to be able to retire, but also will your money last throughout the rest of your life. And unfortunately, when you have a 40% loss in your 401k, like a lot of people did here, just a few weeks ago, then that may put off retirement for 2 or 3 years. And you don't want something dictating your life like that simply because you didn't plan properly or simply because you didn't rebalance when you were supposed to. So the first couple of questions many of you are probably wondering, and what we find each and every day with a lot of our clients and prospective clients when we talk about your 401ks is how and why. How and why do I rebalance these accounts? And there's a few balancing strategies. Number one thing you have to look at, of course, is a calendar driven. At a minimum, you should rebalance your portfolio at least once a year, preferably on the same date. Number two, volatility driven. In the event an asset class such as the S&P 500 suffers a sizable drop in a short-term frame, it could make sense to rebalance during the market fall, like we're seeing right now, to take advantage of the stocks when they are on sale or at a discount. And number three, of course, one of the biggest we see today, Chad, is retirement driven. If you're younger, you maybe have 60% stocks and 40% bonds, but as you get closer to retirement, now you really have to start thinking out of the box. Start looking at that safe risk ratio. Really start insulating your portfolio from a downturn in the market, which is, again, what we're going through right now.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of times, and what we hear so often, number one is, many people working for a corporation, that 401k or company plan, there's very little guidance. So they feel like they're all on their own and having to make those kinds of decisions. So a lot of our clients, will kind of send that to us and we'll be able to kind of help them do some of that rebalance as well. But number two, I think it's so important to understand how these accounts work and know when you have opportunities, when you should be rebalancing. And as you get closer to retirement, it's really about protecting and making sure that money is still going to be there when you do decide to retire.
Another huge thing that we want to do with your 401k or that you want to do with your 401k or company plans is separate it, especially once you start building a pretty good nest egg up there, is to separate it into two different buckets. And the two buckets is what you've made, but also what you have the potential to make with the new money going in. If you're getting close to retirement, you have a nice nest egg built up in your 401k or other retirement accounts, you want to make sure you start insulating that money you have made, as I mentioned earlier, from a downturn of the market. Example, Chad, if you have $750 or $1 million in your account, that is money that you have made. You do not want to continue to take the same risk with that money as you are taking with the new money you put in every pay period. Unfortunately, what we see today is a lot of you are continuing to put both buckets of money in the exact same way. In other words, you're investing in the same investments, which is great when the market is up, but when you have a crash of 30 to 40%, you lose a lot of money simply because you had the wrong guidance or because you did not plan properly. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we see with people, Chad, even people that are 6 months or a year away from retirement, is they're still taking that grow at all cost approach, and you cannot do that, especially when you get closer to retirement, but especially, Chad, when we have volatility like we're having right now.
Yeah, and I think, it's, in our opinion, it's pretty common sense. As you're getting closer to retirement, start de-risking and trying to hold on to what you've already made. But I think we call it dollar cost averaging. And when you're still working and you're 60 years of age and you're going to work for another 2 to 5 years, now that it's a much better feeling and more peace of mind if you know you've kind of taken the money you've already made and put a game plan together to protect some of that. And then now that new money, you can be a lot more aggressive when you have the peace of mind knowing you've built a game plan for retirement 2 to 5 years down the road.
And Chad, in order to separate your 401k into two different buckets, you want to be able to make sure that if you're over 59 and a half, you take advantage of what's called that in-service withdrawal. In other words, right now, if you're over 59 and a half with most employer plans, you can go in and take some of that 401k, that retirement account, and you can roll it over to an IRA. Have no tax consequences. Keep your 401k open or that company planning open as long as you're working and keep pumping money in that. But now what you're doing is you're taking some of that money from that 401k, putting it into the IRA, and that's more of your secure bucket. Where, hey, we've made this money, we're going to put it over here to the side so we stop losing when the market goes down. And then the new money you're putting in, the money you're putting in every pay period in your current 401k or retirement account, then you can afford to take a little more risk with that money.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of times, not only is it building that game plan in that IRA, but also, think about what options you have inside the 401k. You're pretty limited, and most of it, 99%, a lot of times we see, you may have one safe, stable value fund. Everything else is stocks, bonds, whatever it may be. So, understanding that, taking more control to be able to build a game plan, but also many of you have old employer plans that you started a new job. This is a great opportunity to kind of take more control of those funds, roll those out of those 401ks into your IRA to do some of this planning.
And the biggest, Chad, is again investing options. Inside of your 401k, you only have about 30 to 40 investment options. But if you roll that money to an IRA, now you have the whole financial universe at your fingertips to do what is in you and your family's best interest. To download our free white paper today about will your money last as long as you do, visit www.schlegelfinancial.com/empoweryou. When we come back on our strategy play, we're going to show you the proper way to separate your 401k or company plan into those two buckets that are so important today. We'll be right back. Your host and coach, Chad Tobin, and joining
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home, and your hard-earned dollars, of course you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice, appreciate it.
Thanks. It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning.
In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have
Now back into the Chad Schlegel Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are Schlegel Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248. Welcome back to the Chad Schlegel Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to show you the proper way to separate your 401k or company plan into two different buckets.
Yeah, and I think when you look at your buckets, and this is your 401k, the first bucket needs to be that money, as we talked about earlier, that you've already made. The second bucket being named the money that you could make, that new money you're going to be adding to while you're still working from age 60 to maybe 65.
And that's probably the biggest mistake we see with a lot of pre-retirees today, Chad, as they get closer to retirement, is really not taking control of that money and continuing to invest it the same way you did when you're 30 to 40. And you cannot afford to do that, especially with the volatile market that we're having right now. So right now, if you're over 59 and a half, you want to take advantage of what's called an in-service withdrawal. In other words, you now can go in and take some of that 401k and roll it over to an IRA. Have no tax consequences. Still keep your 401k open. Still keep pumping money to that because hopefully that's free money that your employer is giving you. But the key is, Chad, the reason you want to do that is, number one, it puts you in control of your money, not your employer. Also, Chad, there's a lot of other benefits from that. When you have that money sitting in the IRA, you have the whole financial universe at your fingertips, as opposed to in the 401k, you only have about 30 to 40 options there.
Yeah, and I think, once you kind of roll that money out, this is the money you've already made. Now all of a sudden you can begin building a game plan. So whether you're 60 years of age and you plan to work for another 5 years, you now have that IRA to where you can start adding some principal protection. You can start putting some income planning in place, almost creating that family pension. If you're going to take on some risk, be in some good quality, lower cost options, and also still have that growth and some good income investments. So really build that game plan from the ground up here. And now all of a sudden, once you've accomplished that, now we can start refilling that bucket too.
Absolutely right, Chad. Now once you have the majority of your 401k or your retirement account secure, if you will, now we can afford to take a little more risk with that new money. As long as you continue to work every pay period, you want to take a little more risk with that money. Why? Because it allows you to buy into the market. Even if the market's going down, you're buying in as it goes down, because when it comes back up, you're going to have an even bigger gain, which is what's called dollar cost averaging.
Yeah, and I think, it's important because a lot of people will say, why would I want to be more aggressive in a volatile market like we are in now? But if you have that peace of mind, if you've built that game plan with the money you already have made, now all of a sudden with the money you can make moving forward, you want to be a little bit more aggressive and you'll still have that peace of mind to do so.
And I think that's the key, Chad, is having that proper plan, having that secure bucket and that growth bucket set up. And that's this week's strategy play. And folks, if you have more questions on how you can get your plan set up, our financial professionals will walk you through exactly how to get your 401k and other retirement accounts set up. In order to take advantage of our 5-point inspection, call us now at 888-294-9248 or email us at info@schlegelfinancial.com. We'll be right back with some key takeaways from today. The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your monies that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri, at our Creve Coeur and Sunset Hills offices, or in Illinois at our Edwardsville, Springfield, and Jacksonville locations. So call now to get set up on the right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Schlegel Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We've covered a lot today, so now what we want to do is talk about 3 key takeaways. Number 1, do not let emotions like greed or fear take control over your investments during these volatile times. Number 2, understand the benefits of doing an in-service withdrawal if you're over 59 and a half and taking control of those hard-earned dollars that has taken you a lifetime to create. Number 3, Chad, take advantage of separating your 401k or company plan into those 2 separate buckets.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, know what you can control and what is out of our control, and just being proactive to help you build that game plan, but educate yourself and know the options you have when it comes to your qualified accounts.
Schlegel Financial and our team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area in the form of a webinar to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadschlegelshow.com. Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Schlegel Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague, Chad Tobin, this is the coach, Chad Schlegel. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.